Welcome back to the beginning, prior to my awakening. I am your host, Mental Stimulant, the Divine Empress. Sit back and relax. Listen to my voice. This is Installment 17. Now, during the time of my excursions with women, I had a relationship with a man that I trauma bonded with. When I first seen him, he was the most beautiful man I'd ever seen. Chocolate, just like me. Physique that screamed strong to me. He had what appeared to be a 2-year old in tow. At that time, I wasn't taken aback, not even a second thought, that being as young as the child was, the mama couldn't have been too far behind. If I'd known what I know now, I'd have probably kept right on walking. For me, it was love at first sight. For him, I'm sure he was viewing me as prey. And from the very beginning, all the red flags were there of just how dysfunctional this relationship was sure to be. But when you're unseasoned and not experienced, most are found to be wearing rose colored glasses. What I seen was someone I wanted to be everything for, moth to a flame, you could say. This was around the time when pagers first came out, and I was frustrated that I couldn't reach him readily because he didn't have any means. And let me enlighten you on how green I really was. I never once considered that this grown man, older than me in fact, maybe me not being able to reach him was his doing. Maybe me not being able to reach him kept him from answering questions. But that's not how I viewed it. All I knew was I needed to fix it. And I put emphasis on it. Right off the back, I took the responsibility of making a relationship work on myself. Bad mistake. My mom had just bought me a pager because I worked late. Not even thinking, I gave my pager to him. Forget my safety, right? Anyhow, I can't remember how I found out. But by the end of the day that I gave it to him, yes, I said the end of the day, not the next day, the end of the day. He had that joint jumping like a trap line, flooded with chicks. I was pissed. Like, dang, first of all, how did you give the number to all these chicks that fast? Then I was like, I thought we was working on something. When in reality, us being in a relationship was never really verbalized. We was just humping. Okay, let me be honest. He was humping me, and quite frankly, had turned me out. I was inexperienced and right off the porch, and he was a few years older than me. He had me doing stuff I never would have imagined, which just made things worse for me. He had me eating out the palm of his hands, and then he disappeared. I was losing my mind. I found contentment in the bottom of a bottle. Alcoholism was my family's biggest vice. So, needless to say, I began to drink more and more. I was spinning out of control. He had abandoned me. I didn't understand exactly when he resurfaced. I'm not sure. But shortly after, he would be moving in with me. Yes, I know, call me a glutton for punishment. For the next 5 years, we experienced a series of breakups. Simply because even though we lived together and I thought was in a committed relationship, He insisted on living single. We'd break up by way of me putting him out because he yet again didn't come home. And I just go and collect me a new chick. At different times, he made me question what I was even doing with the man at all. He never treated me good. He just humped me good. That's what I got out of the deal. Most of the ladies often ask me the same, why I kept taking him back. And honestly, I really didn't know. Because it seemed I was getting used to being abused. And it wasn't just emotionally. Sometimes, when confronted about his cheating, it would get physical. Thank God for my chocolate tone because it kept the bruises from being seen. I didn't even really know when it would get so bad. I had to get restraining orders, but it did. I'd be done and commit to only messing with women. It was safer. But for decades, he and I would do the back and forth, bruises around my neck, around my sides and legs, etc. The only place he didn't hit me was my face. He was smart that way. Unbeknownst to me, he was never opposed to hitting on women. He just learned over time where to hit them. This is not what I'd imagine what my first heterosexual relationship would be like. But it was somehow normal to me. Probably because ever since my mom came back and got my brother and I watched her husband black her eyes and abuse her. This was my interpretation of love, not knowing that actually it was a generational curse put upon my bloodline. The women in my family either gave up on men, settled for men, or was abused by men. I can't recall one healthy heterosexual relationship the women in my family had. My father was never present. I never knew him. My grandma was married once, but chased her husband away after finding him to be unfaithful. I guess getting a gun pulled on you will make you leave and never turn back. She had an occasional boyfriend, but spent most of her time alone or in the bottom of a bottle as well. And believe me, my grandma was a gangster, alcoholic and all. She was the most gentle woman I've ever known, the most giving and caring woman I've ever known. And honestly, she got the crappy end of the stick due to her big heart. I see a lot of her ways in me, so loving and caring, that at some point you become a doormat, unable to say no, unable to check folks in their poor behavior. All curses. Well, those curses have been broken by me. I have let go of toxic, one-sided relationships. I have chose me. I'm prepared to devote myself to the Most High because after all, He's the only one that was loyal to me. Men I've loved have had children on me, while with me, never had the courtesy to even tell me. Men had wives and failed to tell me, making me a mistress against my will. But none of this is on me. What is on me is what I allow. I am a great woman. Never will I again settle for scraps. Never again will I compete. Never again will I give anyone what they didn't earn. Because all the abuse I got, I never deserved. But the big picture is self-worth. It was all ordained by God to show me what I deserved and what I did not. The Most High puts His most love through the greatest test. Although when going through it all, you have no choice in asking God, why would you put this on me? But if you continue to be upright and learn the lessons, there comes great rewards. Will you fold or stand? Will you submit to the dark or remain in the light? Ask yourself, Through your trials and tribulations, who have you become? Are you ready to submit to the Most High? This is just a few things that I thought I would engage you with. Like, it's not all bad. Believe me, when I endured so many things in my life, most times I didn't see a way out. I didn't see it being any different. I didn't want any better for myself. I wanted better for everybody around me, but never considered what I deserved. But anyway, like I always say, if you want to talk, have found yourself feeling helpless, or looking for a different perspective, no judgment here, feel free to reach out. Info is in the About section of YouTube page. Mental Stimulant, the Divine Empress. Be blessed and a great encouragement.